Imagine stepping into a world where gravity just loosens its grip. Silence reigns, yeah. And vibrant colors explode all around you. A realm where you move with this almost effortless grace, exploring places maybe few eyes have ever seen. That, right there, is the magic of scuba diving. And today, we're taking a deep dive into this incredible activity. We'll unravel its fascinating origins, peek behind the curtain at the ingenious equipment that makes it all possible. We'll understand the crucial procedures that keep us safe and discover the surprising range of applications. I mean, from pure fun to really critical professional work. Our mission for you today is to pull out the most important insights from our sources, giving you a real shortcut to being, well, genuinely well-informed about what it truly means to breathe underwater.
It's quite a journey, isn't it? Not just into the depths, but into human ingenuity and our endless curiosity to explore the planet's hidden corners.
Absolutely. And the very idea of breathing underwater, it's captivated humanity for millennia. Before any of this self-contained gear, there was free diving, right? A practice dating back thousands of years. But the history of scuba diving, the kind we recognize today, it really starts picking up steam in the 19th century. And early on, our sources show two basic approaches were emerging for underwater breathing. On one hand, you had open circuit, surface-supplied gear. Air comes from above, exhaled gas just bubbles away, the classic old-school diving helmets.
Yeah, the breast hats.
Right. Then, on the other hand, there were closed-circuit scuba systems designed to recycle breath, absorb the CO2, top up the oxygen. Which approach seems more intuitive, maybe, or advanced initially?
Well, the recycling idea, the closed circuit, it certainly feels more efficient, doesn't it? More futuristic even. You're trying to make limited resources last longer. But as our sources reveal, that efficiency, it came with some pretty significant early hurdles.
It absolutely did. And that's where the story gets really interesting. One of the earliest breakthroughs in self-contained breathing came from Henry Fluess, 1878. He designed what's considered the first commercially practical scuba rebreather. Picture this: a rubber mask, a breathing bag, copper tank with oxygen, and this really basic carbon dioxide scrubber.
Rope yarn soaked in caustic potash.
Yeah, exactly. And it allowed dives up to 3 hours.
Which is just astonishing for the late 19th century.
Yeah.
3 hours. But here's the kicker, the kind of detail that makes you wince a bit. There was no way to actually measure the gas mix during the dive. You're effectively flying blind underwater. No idea if your O2 is safe or, dangerously high.
It's exactly flying blind. Then World War II, it really pushed these developments further. The British adapted their Davis submerged escape apparatus. The Germans used Drager rebreathers for their frogmen. And then in the U.S., Christian J. Lambertson, he's the guy who later coined scuba, right? In 1952, he invented an oxygen rebreather back in 1939 for the OSS. But as you hinted, these early oxygen rebreathers, they were severely depth limited. Why was that again?
Well, it comes down to physics, really. The deeper you go, the higher the ambient pressure. Simple enough. And that means the partial pressure of the oxygen you're breathing also goes up. For these early systems using pure or very high oxygen mixes, that rising partial pressure quickly becomes toxic. It affects the central nervous system. So the very thing you need to live above water turns into a poison at depth. They were clever, but incredibly constrained.
Right. So while some folks were focused on recycling air, another path was being forged. And this one ultimately revolutionized diving for everyone. It started with a working demand regulator system back in 1864, Deneroux and Rouquayrol. Critical piece of the puzzle. Then later, in 1925, Yves Leprier developed an open-circuit scuba system. But it was manually adjusted, free flow. Didn't last long underwater, not quite the breakthrough.
And this is where the name everyone knows comes in. Jacques Cousteau. During the German occupation of France, 1942, him and Émile Gagnon, they developed what truly became the first successful and safe open-circuit scuba system, the Aqualung. It combined an improved demand regulator with high-pressure air tanks.
Yeah.
Simple idea, relatively speaking, but it just worked.
It made independent, prolonged underwater exploration a reality for the first time, really opened the floodgates. But here's a fascinating twist how innovation spread despite patents. Ted Eldred in Australia, 1952. He worked around Cousteau's patents, developed the single-hose open-circuit system.
Ah, the modern standard.
Pretty much. It separated the first stage regulator, the bit on the tank, from the second stage, the demand valve at your mouth, using a low-pressure hose.
Yeah.
Big step forward in simplifying the gear, improving performance. It's largely the design we still use.
What's really striking here, I think, is how the limits of one technology, the depth constraints of early rebreathers because of oxygen toxicity, directly pushed innovation in a completely different direction. towards safer and ultimately way more accessible open-circuit systems. It's a classic case of solving one problem, opening up a whole new world.
And speaking of possibilities, let's talk about the incredible tech that makes scuba diving accessible for millions today. It's way more than just a tank and a mask, isn't it? At its heart, of course, is the scuba set itself, that self-contained underwater breathing apparatus that you carry. It supplies gas at ambient pressure. That's the total pressure from the water and the atmosphere around you. You breathe through a mouthpiece or maybe a full face mask for even more comfort and protection. Right, so when it comes to how you actually breathe, we mainly use two systems. The most common is open-circuit scuba. When you exhale, the gas just goes out into the water. Simple. Can you walk us through how that two-stage regulator system works, delivers the air?
Sure, it's pretty elegant, actually. Your tank holds air at incredibly high pressure, right? Hundreds of bars, thousands of PSI. The first stage regulator, the bit that screws onto the tank valve, its main job is dropping that crazy high pressure down to an intermediate level, usually about 8 to 10 bars, maybe 120, 150 PSI, above the surrounding water pressure. Then the second stage, the part that goes in your mouth, takes that intermediate pressure. And crucially, only when you inhale, it reduces it further to match the exact ambient pressure. Makes it easy to breathe.
Effortless, almost.
Almost. And when you exhale, the gas just vents out through a non-return valve, usually on the side of the second stage. Bubbles.
Right, the iconic bubbles. And what about that single hose design we mentioned? How did that improve on Cousteau's original twin hose Aqualunt?
Ah, yeah, the old twin hose. Cousteau's original had both hoses and the actual demand valve unit mounted right on the tank on your back. It could be a bit cumbersome, and depending on how you were positioned in the water, it could actually make breathing slightly harder sometimes. Eldred's single hose design, by separating that second stage and bringing it right to your mouth via a flexible hose, it dramatically improved comfort, reduced breathing effort, much more ergonomic, much more efficient. Game changer for usability, really.
Okay, so that's open circuit, the standard. Then we have rebreathers, closed circuit, or CCR, and semi-closed, SCR. These are seriously ingenious. They process and reuse your exhaled breath. What's the big advantage there, besides just being efficient with gas?
Well, for certain kinds of diving, the real game changer with rebreathers is how they basically eliminate bubbles, or almost eliminate them. Think about the strategic advantage for military divers, right? Covert ops, or for scientists.
Not scaring the fish.
Exactly. Not startling, delicate marine life. Allows you to get much closer, observe natural behavior, or, for underwater photographers, no bubbles ruining the shot. It unlocks completely new ways to explore without, announcing your presence. And yes, you get significantly longer dive times on way less gas.
Sounds amazing. But I'm guessing that sophistication comes with a catch.
Absolutely. There's always a trade-off, isn't there?
Yeah.
They're definitely more complex, more expensive, and they absolutely require specialized training. And because you're actively managing your breathing loop, recirculating gas, there are more potential failure points. It puts a higher cognitive load on the diver.
Yeah.
It's not a set it and forget it kind of system like open circuit. Incredible tools, no doubt, but really for specialized diving.
Okay, so breathing sorted. Next challenge. Actually moving gracefully through this, alien environment. That's where your legs come in. Your powerful leg muscles, helped by swim fins, become your main engine.
Your propulsion system, yeah.
But for covering longer distances, diver propulsion vehicles, DPVs, underwater scooters, basically, or even sleds towed from the surface can be used. But the key, as our sources really emphasize, is streamlining your gear and maintaining neutral buoyancy. That's crucial for moving efficiently.
Oh, absolutely. Wasting energy fighting the water is just tiring and burns through your air faster.
Which brings us neatly to buoyancy control equipment. This stuff is absolutely crucial for safety and just enjoying the dive. You'll wear ballast weights, lead usually, to counteract your natural buoyancy and the buoyancy of your gear, especially your wetsuit. Lets you sink in the first place.
And the amount you need changes, right, depending on your suit thickness, even salt versus fresh water. Salt water is denser, more buoyant.
Exactly. Then there's the buoyancy compensator, the BC or BCD. It's basically an inflatable jacket or bladder. You fill it with a bit of low-pressure air from your tank, allowing you to fine-tune your position in the water column.
And that fine-tuning, it's constant, isn't it? Achieving true neutral buoyancy, where you're just hanging there, not floating up, not sinking down. It's this wonderfully unstable state. Even tiny changes in depth or the compression of your wetsuit as you go deeper means you're making these continuous small adjustments. It's a really fundamental skill.
Totally. And that leads perfectly into diver trim, your body's orientation in the water. Maintaining good trim, usually horizontal, streamlined, feet slightly up isn't just about looking cool, though it helps.
Ah, yeah.
It significantly reduces drag, like up to 50% compared to swimming sort of head up, struggling along. It's critical for efficiency how long your air lasts. Okay, beyond moving, seeing, and staying warm, also pretty important, your diving mask. Seems simple, but it's crucial. Creates that vital air pocket in front of your eyes. It corrects how water's refractive index messes with vision, makes everything look about a third bigger and a quarter closer.
A constant reminder you're in a different world optically.
Right, but you have to equalize the pressure inside the mask as you descend. Just gently exhale through your nose into it. Otherwise, you get an uncomfortable, even painful mask squeeze.
Yeah, not pleasant. And anyone who's dived has probably dealt with mask fogging too, right?
Yeah.
That frustrating miss. A quick spit and rinse inside before the dive, or using an anti-fog solution usually does the trick. But clear vision is paramount.
Absolutely. And with depth, light changes dramatically. Water absorbs colors, starting with red, so deep water just looks blue. Monochromatic. That's why dive lights are so essential. They bring back the natural color, the contrast. They completely transform the underwater landscape.
And sometimes they attract critters too, which can be pretty cool.
Yeah. For exposure protection, wetsuits are the standard for warmer water. Made of foamed neoprene, they trap a thin layer of water against your body, which your body heats up. Gives you insulation plus some abrasion resistance. But for colder waters or really long dives, dry suits are the way to go.
Dry suits are a whole different level of protection. They keep you, well, dry, water doesn't get in, critical for water below maybe 15 Celsius, 60 Fahrenheit, or for those extended technical dives. You inflate them slightly with air or sometimes argon, which insulates better to prevent the suit material from squeezing you under pressure. But managing that air adds another task to your buoyancy control.
Right. Another thing to think about. And finally, staying on track, staying safe underwater. That relies on constant monitoring and navigation. Traditional depth gauges and dive watches still exist, but honestly, most divers today rely on electronic dive computers.
Little wrist-mounted miracles, some of them.
They really are. They do real-time decompression modeling, track your gas mixtures, depth, time, ascent rate. Some even compensate for altitude automatically. Incredible devices. You're also constantly monitoring your breathing gas supply with a submersible pressure gauge, an SPG. Often, it's wirelessly integrated with your dive computer now.
Super handy.
And for navigation, a simple underwater compass is still incredibly useful. But in overhead environments, caves, wreck guidelines are absolutely essential. Non-negotiable for finding your way out. Okay, safety equipment. An alternative breathing gas supply is top of the list, absolutely paramount, whether that's sharing with your buddy using their octopus regulator, the extra second stage, or carrying your own completely independent bailout cylinder.
Redundancy is key.
Totally. Cutting tools too, knives, line cutters. Getting tangled in fishing line or nets is a very real hazard. A surface marker buoy, or SMB, that inflatable sausage you send up, indicates your position to the boat crew, helps control your ascent. And you might carry other surface detection aids too, mirrors, lights, maybe even a personal locator beacon for emergencies offshore.
It's incredible when you list it all out, isn't it? How much thought has gone into redundancy and safety systems. This array of sophisticated gear, especially things like dive computers, managing decompression in real time, and the huge emphasis on having backup air sources. It's fundamentally transformed diving. It's moved it, I think, from being this purely daring adventure into something much more calculated and, crucially, much safer exploration.
That's a great point. So all this gear, all this innovation, what does it mean for the actual experience underwater? Because it's not just about the equipment, right? It's about the knowledge, the skills you bring. Diving in this unfamiliar, inherently hazardous place requires simple yet absolutely critical procedures to stay safe. Most are designed to reduce the risk of drowning, obviously, but also barotrauma, pressure injuries, and decompression sickness.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the most fundamental skill. Breathing from scuba. Mostly it's just like breathing normally, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Slow, deep breaths are best. Minimizes effort, prevents CO2 buildup.
But here's the absolute golden, non-negotiable rule. Drilled into every diver from day one. Never. Hold. Breath. On. Ascent. Even for a second, even over a small depth change. Can you maybe elaborate on just how serious that is?
This is probably the single most critical safety rule in all of scuba diving.
Yes.
Bar none. As you ascend, the surrounding pressure decreases, so the air in your lungs expands, following Boyle's law. If you hold your breath, that expanding air has nowhere to go. It can literally rupture the tiny air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli. This forces air bubbles into your bloodstream or surrounding tissues. It's called pulmonary barotrauma, and it can cause an arterial gas embolism, a bubble blocking blood flow, potentially to the brain. It's a rapid, potentially fatal emergency. So slow, continuous breathing on ascent isn't just recommended, it's mandatory. Always breathe.
Okay, message received. Before you even dip a toe in the water, dive planning is essential. This means honestly looking at your comfort zone, your skill level, making sure your gear is appropriate for the planned dive, and crucially, planning your gas supply. Not just for the dive itself, but having enough reserve for any foreseeable problems, any contingencies.
Your gas plan is your lifeline.
Absolutely. And pre-dive equipment checks with your buddy, also non-negotiable. Every time. Once you're in the water, there's a whole suite of standard procedures you learn and practice until they're second nature. Safe ways to enter and exit the water, controlled descent procedures, constantly equalizing pressure in your ears and mask to prevent that bear trauma.
Clearing water from your mask if it leaks, or from your regulator if it comes out of your mouth, happens to everyone.
Maintaining that neutral buoyancy control throughout the dive, which needs frequent small adjustments, especially as depth changes or your tank gets lighter. Mastering efficient mobility using your fins, keeping your hands free. Regular buddy checks underwater, checking each other's air, depth, time. Monitoring your own decompression status, usually on your computer. And underwater communication using standard hand signals, or light signals, or maybe even writing on a slate.
All leading up to a safe ascent, managing decompression, and surfacing properly.
Let's touch on that decompression piece again. It's so critical.
Yeah, it really is. As you spend time at depth, inert gases from your breathing mix, mostly nitrogen, if you're breathing air, dissolve into your body tissues. It's just physics. During ascent, as the pressure drops, these dissolved gases need to come out of solution slowly and safely and be eliminated via your lungs. If you ascend too quickly, the gas can come out of solution too fast, forming bubbles inside your tissues or bloodstream.
That's the bends.
That's decompression sickness, yeah. DCS, or the bends. Symptoms can range from a skin rash or joint pain to serious neurological issues, paralysis, even death. Most recreational divers stay within no decompression limits, meaning they can ascend directly to the surface without mandatory stops, though a shallow safety stop, maybe 3 to 5 minutes at 5 meters or 15 feet, is highly recommended to further reduce risk.
But technical divers, they often plan dives that require decompression stops.
Exactly. Technical dives often involve complex, pre-planned decompression schedules, stopping at specific depths for specific times during ascent, or they rely heavily on their dive computers to manage it in real time.
Okay. After the dive, post-dive procedures are just as important. Debriefing with your buddy, how did it go, what did you see, essential equipment care and maintenance, rinsing gear, checking for issues, and crucially, logging your dive. Your logbook is vital.
It really is.
Yeah.
It helps you plan future dives, especially if you're doing multiple dives over several days, tracks your air consumption, records equipment performance, and yeah, it's often required to prove experience for further training or certain dive trips.
Who you dive with also shapes the procedures. Buddy and team diving is the traditional model for recreational diving. You dive with a similarly equipped partner trained to help each other in an emergency, like sharing air. But our sources mention there's some ongoing debate about how well that system actually works in practice sometimes.
Yeah, it's an interesting evolution in thinking. The buddy system is the foundation of basic training, absolutely. But real-world incident analysis sometimes shows that buddies can get separated, or one might not be able to effectively help the other in a true emergency. This has led to the rise, or perhaps resurgence, of solo diving as a recognized discipline, at least by some agencies.
Which sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
more dangerous.
Not necessarily if done right. Solo divers take complete responsibility for their own safety. They must carry fully redundant critical equipment, like at least 2 completely independent breathing gas supplies, a backup mask, cutting tools, etc. It requires a significantly higher level of experience, usually 100+ dives, specific training, and a certain mindset. Self-reliance is paramount. So the debate is lively. Some agencies really stress the team buddy concept. Others offer specific solo diver certifications. It reflects a growing emphasis perhaps on individual diver competence and having the right gear for self-rescue.
Navigation, too, is key to safety, especially with that limited gas supply ticking away. In overhead environments, caves, inside wrecks, laying a continuous guideline from open water back to the exit is the absolute standard. Non-negotiable. Getting lost in there is often fatal.
That line is your only guaranteed way out.
Right. In less complex environments, you might use a compass, natural landmarks, maybe follow a reef contour.
Connecting this back, the sheer detail in all these procedures, buddy checks, gas planning, navigation protocols, decompression management, the solo diving considerations. It really underscores the unique physiological and environmental challenges. It's a testament to decades of learning, often the hard way, and continuous adaptation. It's transformed diving from, rudimentary explorations into these highly calculated, much safer excursions.
But things can still go wrong, and that's where emergency procedures become your absolute lifeline, the most urgent. A compromised breathing gas supply, running out of air, or having your regulator fail. That's often called an out-of-air incident, though usually you still have some air left.
And that's where a competent, attentive buddy providing their alternate air source that octopus can be invaluable, or deploying your own bailout system if you're diving solo or prepared that way.
Then there are decompression emergencies. Maybe you surfaced too fast, missed a required stop, or your computer failed. Loss of buoyancy control is another big one. Your BC fails, deflates rapidly, or maybe your dry suit floods, causing you to sink, or the opposite.
Excess buoyancy. Losing your weight belt, for instance. That can lead to a dangerously fast, uncontrolled descent.
Scary stuff. Incapacitation, too, losing consciousness underwater. Could be from oxygen toxicity on a deep dive with the wrong gas, hypoxia from a rebreather failure, maybe contaminated air in your tank. A true emergency requiring immediate rescue by a buddy or team.
Yeah, very serious.
Entrapment is another one. Getting tangled in fishing line, nets, kelp, or getting stuck inside a wreck or cave, which is why carrying those cutting tools and using guidelines properly is so important. And then there are various medical conditions, the diving-specific ones like barotrauma or gas toxicities, or just general acute medical problems happening coincidentally while diving.
Interestingly, our sources suggest that buddy separation, while potentially stressful, isn't always considered an immediate life-threatening emergency if both divers are competent, self-sufficient, and properly equipped. The procedure is usually to search for a minute, then surface safely and reunite there.
Right. Ultimately, though, underpinning all of this is your fitness to dive. Medical and physical suitability is crucial, sometimes requires detailed examinations, especially for professional or technical diving, and the effects of medications underwater. Largely unstudied, so caution is really essential.
Okay, so beyond the personal adventure of recreational diving, scuba serves some truly fascinating, really critical roles across so many fields. What does that look like? Where is scuba actually used?
It's incredibly diverse, but first let's talk range. Your range and endurance underwater are always limited, right? By your breathing gas supply, how fast you use it, staying warm, and just physiological factors. For depth, entry-level recreational divers are usually trained for around 18-20 meters, say 60-66 feet. The major recreational agencies generally set 40 meters, 130 feet, as the limit for recreational air diving. Technical diving blows past that significantly. Specialized training, equipment, exotic gas mixtures like Trimix or Heliox. They can go to 100 meters, 330 feet, or even 120 meters, nearly 400 feet.
Though professional diving limits vary by country and the type of work. For really high-risk stuff, surface-supplied diving air pumped down from above often gets the nod for greater control and unlimited gas.
Okay, so what about the actual applications? Recreational scuba is the big one most people think of, diving purely for fun, enjoyment, with all sorts of specialties like cave diving, wreck diving, ice diving, deep diving.
It's a huge global industry, too. Underwater tourism, the professionals who support it, instructors, dive masters, boat crews.
Yeah, and then you have professional scuba. Divers employed for an astonishing array of underwater tasks where that self-contained mobility is key.
Yeah, everything from underwater maintenance in giant public aquariums to harvesting marine resources like abalone or sea urchins, inspecting and cleaning ship hulls, underwater construction support, salvaging things, and public safety diving police, fire departments, search and rescue recovery teams. Very demanding work.
Then there's military diving, the classic frogmen or combat divers.
Exactly. Their work involves direct combat roles, infiltration, reconnaissance, placing mines, disposing of bombs, underwater engineering tasks. And as we mentioned, rebreathers are highly favored here. Stealth is everything.
Which also links to scientific diving.
Right. Biologists, geologists, marine archaeologists, digging up shipwrecks, oceanographers, they all use scuba as a fundamental tool for research, observation, data collection, sample gathering. And they, too, often prefer rebreathers to avoid disturbing the environment or the specific subjects they're studying, or just to get longer bottom times for complex tasks.
And we can't forget underwater photographers and videographers, professionals documenting the underwater world for films, documentaries, magazines. They also love rebreathers for getting close to wildlife and avoiding bubble interference. So to do any of these things, From a fun reef dive to complex military ops, training and certification are absolutely non-negotiable. Training's provided by qualified instructors affiliated with well-known diver certification agencies, PADI, NAUI, SSI, CMAS are some big international ones, or sometimes directly by government bodies for professional or military roles. Basic diver training, your open water course, covers all those essential knowledge and skills we talked about.
Equipment assembly and care, safe entries and exits, clearing your mask and regulator, buoyancy control, fitting techniques, safe ascents and descents, equalization, basic buddy assists, emergency procedures, communication, dive planning fundamentals.
Plus, you get a solid grounding in the physics and physiology of diving, understanding why you need to do things certain ways, how pressure affects your body and your gear.
And that certification card, the C card, it's basically your license to dive. You needed to rent gear, get air fills, join organized dive trips, pretty much anywhere in the world. Recreational training programs vary in length and depth, but they all aim to prepare you to dive with an acceptable level of risk within specific limits.
Professional diver training, though, that's often governed by much stricter national standards, like HSE in the UK or the Department of Employment and Labor in South Africa. These standards are recognized internationally.
Yeah, they're incredibly rigorous, covering not just diving skills, but administrative procedures, risk assessments, emergency management plans, comprehensive rescue skills, even acting as a standby diver, advanced first aid, maybe even operating decompression chambers. Military and scientific diving also have their own specific, very high-level training and certification pathways.
And for those who really, truly push the limits of human endurance underwater, there are some, frankly, astonishing records. The current scuba depth record, for instance. It stands at an incredible 332.35 meters, that's 1,090 feet, set by Ahmed Gabber in 2014, although there's apparently some investigation around that one.
Yeah, there's been some debate. If his record were ever disqualified, the previous record holder is Nuno Gomes at 318 meters, or 1,043 feet. Back in 2005. Either way, just mind-boggling depths on scuba.
Imagine the planning, the exotic gas mixes, the decompression time. Hours and hours, potentially days decompressing from a dive like that.
The physiological stress alone is immense.
And beyond sheer depth, how about cave diving? The longest cave penetration on record is 26,930 feet. That's over 8 kilometers or 5 miles into a cave system. John Burnett and Charlie Roberson. The longest cave diving traverse going in one entrance and out another was 36,000 feet, or 11 kilometers, nearly 7 miles. Jared Jablonski and Casey McKinley did that in 2007.
And get this, that traverse took 7 hours underwater just for the swim-through part, followed by another 14 hours of in-water decompression.
21 hours underwater. Just incredible. And for longest continuous submergence using SCBA gear, Mike Stevens holds that record from 1986, a staggering 212.5 hours. That's almost 9 days underwater.
In a special habitat, presumably, but still breathing scuba gear. What's truly remarkable about all these applications and these extreme records is the sheer breadth of human activity they represent. From intensely personal exploration and recreation to critical scientific discovery, vital public safety work, and highly specialized military operations. Mastering this unique interaction with the underwater world, it just constantly redefines what's possible for us beneath the surface. It really showcases our unwavering drive, I think, to explore every single corner of our planet, no matter how challenging.
Absolutely. From Henry Flus's, early rubber mask and potash scrubber to today's incredibly sophisticated dive computers and silent, efficient rebreathers, our deep dive into scuba has really unveiled this remarkable journey, a journey of innovation, of challenging human limits, and ultimately unlocking this vast, silent world that covers most of our planet. We've seen how precise engineering, rigorous, ongoing training, and this unwavering attention to safety procedures are just woven into every single aspect of this incredible activity.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the history of scuba diving isn't just about the technology, is it? It's a really profound story about our relentless human drive. Our drive to adapt, to overcome our own physiological limits, to overcome environmental challenges, and ultimately to expand our understanding of the planet's last true frontier. It's this continuous dance between our technology, our biology, and the incredible demanding underwater environment.
So the next time you think about the ocean, maybe picture the deep blue. Remember that there's this whole world of ingenuity, of adventure, and even really critical work happening just beneath the surface thanks to scuba. For you, reflecting on all this, what stands out the most from our deep dive today? And maybe that leaves us all with a provocative thought to ponder. What other hidden frontiers, maybe not physical ones, but frontiers in knowledge or understanding or capability, what frontiers are we only just beginning to breathe in now, much like those early divers first tasted underwater air? What's the next scuba for humanity?